here today with Peter, and he is the director of the documentary The End of Time, which was recently named one of the top 10 films by TIFF for the year.
When Joe Kittinger jumped to Earth in the pursuit of knowledge, he fell faster than the speed of sound. Yet with no point of reference, he thought he was suspended in space, as though time had stopped.
Peter, can you tell us a little bit about The End of Time?
The end of time is not about the end of the world. It's about the end of time, or the end of the idea of time. It's really a provocation, I guess, if to ask whether time really exists or if it's something that we made up to organize our experience.
Why time? I mean, you could have chosen any sort of abstract. You could have done space. You could have done other laws of physics. Why time? What interested you specifically about that topic?
Well, I kind of fell into the topic. It's actually probably the hardest topic you could make a film about because time is this strange, elusive, paradoxical phenomena that, in some ways we could say it doesn't exist, and in other ways anything you could choose to point a camera at is a reflection of time. Time is what we are made of, is what a famous poet once said. I fell into it because it's really about being. It's about our awareness here. It's a reflection of the time machine of cinema, which is in itself a kind of game with time and reality. Yeah.
And you definitely play with that in the film, and I do want to get to that in a second. But before we get there, I want to go back to that point you were talking about with respect to how almost everything can be an image of time, and yet it's so elusive in terms of its visual. How did you decide on the images that you used? I mean, you use such a vast breadth of them. You go from lava to CERN. You use fractals. I mean, there are so many different illustrations of time in this. How did you sort out, do the sorting process of what you wanted to use?
Well, the film, it's really important to understand, is a process-oriented film, meaning that it was, made a step at a time. There was not a blueprint or a script for the film at the outset. It was really defined as a set of locations to explore with different relationships to time, and then to find things within those locations to discover associations and interconnections to other locations that we were filming in. So the whole thing is kind of built as a palette of associations, and it's what you discover along the way that matters.
Again, with the sense of playing with time in the movie, I mean, you speed some clips up, you slow other clips down. There's that great shot where we're seeing the image, and then all of a sudden you pull away and you realize you're actually watching it back in an editing studio, so you think it's the present, but it's actually the past. What did you want the audience to take away from those elements of where you play with time?
Well, I think first of all, it's clear that you're watching a film, and I wanted to provoke that. I mean, ultimately, it's a film about time, but it's also a film about a film being about time. It's the game of time with cinema.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the balance that needs to be struck between artistic creativity and exploration with kind of audience appeal.
Well, I think, it's a pretty complex question, but, in film, and let's say in documentary film, we're pretty familiar, especially from television, with films that give you information. Films that have an interview situation and someone explaining something. They're the authority. You see them, you see some other people intercut or some shots that are illustrating the ideas. That's a form of relaying information. And it's a good form. I mean, you come away and you can remember some ideas. But there's another way, which is more, let's say, like music or poetry, where you create an experience of something, and perhaps you don't explain that experience with an interview or even with a voiceover. You really just go into an environment and experience something as an audience, even subjectively. You know, the way I experience it would be different than the person sitting beside me.
It's been a great year for documentaries in Canada. A number of them were mentioned by TIFF in the top 10. Why do you think Canadian filmmakers are drawn to that medium of documentary? And could it be our national art form?
Oh, I don't know if I would go that far. I think it's something. I've been traveling quite a bit with the film internationally, and I work in co-production with Europe, and I think the form of documentary is everywhere becoming more and more attractive, because there's something very compelling about the real world and the unpredictability of it and the nuances within it and the complexity of it that we don't often get in fictionalized constructions, even fictionalized, or sorry, not fictionalized, but even constructions of documentary, which are somehow fictionalized too, yeah. Right? So you see more and more really subjective work being done, which is someone taking a camera and going and looking out and constructing a vision of the world as they see it, which maybe doesn't have a definitive hypothesis stamped on it, but it's a kind of true rendering of how someone is seeing a particular situation. And there's an attraction more and more to that, because I think that is much more personal, also for an audience member to relate to. As far as Canada is concerned, I think there's a great tradition of both experimenting and documentary filmmaking. And it's interesting to see where they merge, because I think documentary by its nature is supposed to allow you to explore. And some people have brought the kind of formal exploration into the documentary exploration. I consider myself to be one of those people that actually starts to play with the way we see, the way we understand images as part of the subject matter. Today, this is a parking lot. Yesterday, a movie theater. And before that, a workshop where Henry Ford invented the Model T.
So, you know, there's the theory that time goes in around and around instead of straight ahead, and I think that's more comforting to me.
I want to thank you very much for this interview, and good luck with the release of the film.
Thank you very much.